Have you ever sat through a strategy meeting, one that's just filled with buzzwords, and you walked out feeling even more confused than when you went in? Yeah, you are definitely not alone. So today, we're going to break down Richard Rumelt's incredible book, Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. We're going to give you a simple, really powerful way to tell the brilliant ideas from the bogus ones. And trust me, it's a total game changer.
This quote from Rumelt, man, it just hits the nail on the head. Real strategy isn't some 100-page PowerPoint deck that's packed with jargon nobody understands. It's a clear, simple, powerful argument. It's about finding the actual challenge and then focusing all your energy like a laser beam right there. It's simple, it's obvious, and it's incredibly effective.
And that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? If good strategy is so simple, why is bad strategy absolutely everywhere? You see it in giant corporations and small nonprofits. So many organizations are just drowning in it. Well, that's the mystery we're about to solve.
Rumelt argues this isn't just a few isolated mistakes here and there. Nope. He says it's a widespread epidemic. It's a pattern of thinking, or maybe a lack of thinking, that leads organizations down completely the wrong path. And a lot of the time, they don't even realize it's happening. Okay, I'm sure you've seen mission statements just like this one. This is from a real tech company, by the way. Just read it for a second. Does it tell you what they do? Does it tell you what problems they're facing? Or what specific choices they're making? Of course not. It's just a cloud of feel-good buzzwords. It's a perfect example of bad strategy out in the wild. Now here's the really cool part. Bad strategy, it has tells. It leaves clues. Rumelt gives us this amazing diagnostic toolkit, 4 key hallmarks that, I promise you, once you learn to see them, you won't be able to unsee them. Let's break them down. First up is fluff. And yeah, it's exactly like that vision statement we just saw. It's using all this superficial, abstract language and buzzwords, leveraging synergies, optimizing platforms that sound super smart but are actually completely empty. Next, and this one is huge, is the failure to actually identify and face the real problem. I mean, if your strategy doesn't clearly state the critical challenge you're trying to overcome, it's not a strategy. It's just a wish list. You're basically just ignoring the giant elephant in the room. This one is so common. It leads to another massive mistake, confusing your goals for your strategy. Rumelt tells this great story about a CEO whose big plan was just to double revenue and profits. Look, that's a great goal. It's a wonderful ambition, but it tells you absolutely nothing about how you're going to get there. A goal is not a strategy. And finally, we have what Rumelt hilariously calls a dog's dinner of objectives. This is just a long, messy, unprioritized laundry list of things the company wants to do. But good strategy demands focus. It means you have to make hard choices. It means saying no to 100 good ideas so you can concentrate on the 1 or 2 that truly matter. Okay, so we've spent all this time talking about the disease. What's the cure? Well, thankfully, it comes down to this beautifully simple framework that Rumelt calls the kernel of good strategy. This is the antidote. It's a powerful, 3-part structure for cutting through all that noise and fluff. And here it is. The kernel has 3 simple, connected parts. First, a diagnosis. What's the real challenge here? Second, a guiding policy. Okay, what's our overall approach to beat that challenge? And third, coherent actions. What specific, coordinated steps are we going to take to make it happen? Diagnosis, policy, actions. That's it. Let's look at each one.
The diagnosis is so much more than just collecting data. It's about finding the story hidden in all that noise. You have to cut through all the complexity of reality and make a judgment call. You have to be able to say this, right here, is the single biggest thing standing in our way.
So once you have the diagnosis, you need a guiding policy. This is your overarching method. Think of it like guardrails on a highway. The guardrails don't tell you exactly how to steer every single second, but they sure do keep you from driving off a cliff. The policy channels all your energy in one specific direction. And finally, you have the actions themselves. And this is critical. They have to be coherent. They can't just be a random list of projects. They have to fit together, they have to reinforce one another, creating this powerful chain reaction where the total effect is way bigger than the sum of the parts.
All right, enough theory. Let's see what this actually looks like in the real world. We've got some classic examples that really show the difference between focus and fluff.
This comparison just says it all, doesn't it? When Steve Jobs came back to Apple in '97, the company was nearly bankrupt. His diagnosis was simple: crippling complexity. His guiding policy: radical simplification. And the coherent action was to slash the product line down to just 4 products. It was a brutal, hard choice. Now contrast that with the tech company DEC. They couldn't choose between 3 different directions, so their strategy was just a fluffy compromise. And you know what happened? The company failed. That is the raw power of making a real choice.
Okay, so let's zoom in a little deeper on that third part of the kernel, coherent action. What does it actually mean for all the different pieces to fit together like a puzzle?
Walmart in its prime is just a masterclass in coherence. Just think about how the system worked. The barcode scanners didn't just speed up checkout, they fed live sales data to a company-wide satellite system. That system then coordinated this massive logistics network to deliver products just in time, which meant they could operate these huge stores with very little inventory sitting in the back. It was a perfectly interlocking machine where every single piece made every other piece stronger.
See, it wasn't about having just one great idea. It was about building a whole system of policies and actions that were mutually reinforcing. That's where real, sustainable advantage comes from.
You know, when you really get this, you realize it requires a fundamental shift in how you think. It forces you to stop looking for some perfect, permanent plan that's going to solve everything.
This is such a powerful idea. A strategy isn't a guarantee of success. It's an educated guess. It's your best judgment, based on your diagnosis, about how to move forward. It's a hypothesis that you then have to go out and test in the real world.
Too many leaders want strategy to be like a machine, you know? You just put in the data, turn the crank, and a perfect plan pops out. Rumelt calls this crank winding. But real strategy isn't a bureaucratic exercise. It's an ongoing, creative, entrepreneurial act of discovery.
And this, for me, is the perfect final thought from the book. Strategy lives right on the edge of what we know and what we don't. That feeling of uncertainty, that ambiguity, it's not something you should fear or avoid. It's the very space where real opportunity exists.
So I'm going to leave you with this question, a challenge really. Think about your business, your career, maybe even a personal project. Forget all the fluff in the wish list for just a second. What is the single most critical challenge you are facing right now? And what's your hypothesis, your educated best guess for how you're going to win?